The cab stopped at 17 Marchmont Street just before 5 o'clock. Emily Gray paid the driver through the window. Her fingers were stiff inside her gloves. The coins felt heavier than they should. The horse stamped once, twice. Its breath made white clouds that dissolved into the gray November air. The driver didn't wait. The cab rolled away before she'd even picked up her case. She watched it turn the corner, the sound of wheels on cobblestones fading until there was nothing but the wind. The house looked smaller than the advertisement had suggested. 3 stories of dirty brick, windows narrow and dark. The iron railings out front were rusted through in places, showing the orange metal underneath like exposed bone. Emily picked up her case, leather handle damp from the fog, heavy enough that her arm ached after 3 steps. The gate made a scraping sound when she pushed it. 6 paving stones led to the front door, each one tilted at a different angle. Roots or frost had pushed them up over the years. She counted them without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Her boots hollow on each one. The door was black, paint peeling around the brass lion's head knocker. The key the landlady had posted felt too large in her hand, old-fashioned, the kind that needed real force to turn. She pushed the key into the lock. It scraped going in, metal on metal. She had to use both hands, leaning her weight against the door. Something inside clicked, then clicked again. The door swung open. The smell hit her first. Old wallpaper, that specific mustiness of paste gone damp, coal dust sharp in her nose, and underneath something sweeter, almost floral but wrong, like flowers left too long in stale water. Emily stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a sound like a held breath released. The hallway was narrow, maybe 6 feet across. Wallpaper, dark green vines on what had once been cream. Now it was the color of old piano keys, yellow and cracked. In places, the paper had pulled away from the wall, curling to show the gray plaster beneath. The floorboards announced her. 3 short creaks as she moved forward, then one long groan that seemed to travel the length of the hall, like the house was taking note of her arrival. A coat stand stood to her left, cast iron shaped like a bare tree. One gray scarf hung from a branch, forgotten or abandoned. Then she saw the mirror. It hung opposite the staircase, taking up most of the wall. Emily set down her case. The frame was black wood, not painted. The wood itself was dark, almost black, carved with vines that twisted up the sides. At each corner where the frame met, a small skull. Not human, too small. Bird skulls, maybe. The eye sockets were deep, filled with gray lint that looked like it had accumulated for decades. The glass. She stepped closer. The mirror had that look of very old glass. The silver backing had broken down, creating spots across the surface, dark patches that spread like mold, like something organic growing behind the reflection. She could see herself in the clear parts, pale, dark coat buttoned to her throat, hair pulled back but coming loose, one strand across her forehead. She looked like someone who had left Manchester at dawn, who had spent 9 hours on a train watching England turn from fields to factories to city. Behind her reflection, the staircase rose. Emily turned to look at the real stairs. 12 steps to the landing. She could see them clearly. dark wood worn smooth in the middle where generations of feet had climbed, the banister polished by decades of hands. The landing had a window, tall and narrow, gray light coming through. She turned back to the mirror. Her reflection stared back. Behind her shoulder, the reflected staircase climbed up. She began to count. 1, 2, 3. Her lips moved with each number, though she made no sound. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The gray window light fell across the same steps in the reflection. 9, 10, 11, 12. But the mirror didn't stop there. 13. Ermely's hand came up. Her fingertips touched the glass. It was ice cold. At the edge of the landing, where the stairs should end, the mirror showed one more step, darker than the others, like it existed in shadow. And at the top, a shape, blurred, like looking through water, or through very old glass that had gone wavy. It might have been. She couldn't tell, but it looked like a person. Ermely spun around, too fast. Her heel caught on her hem. She grabbed the banister to keep from falling. The real staircase, 12 steps. The landing, nothing there, just dust floating in the gray light from the window. She looked back at the mirror.
Her own face, startled now, off-center from her sudden movement. And behind her, 13 steps. That dark shape at the top of the 13th. Her hand found the mirror frame. The wood was damp, cold, like it had been absorbing moisture from the air for so long it had become part of the damp itself. She touched one of the carved skulls. The eye socket was soft with old lint, sticky. She pulled her hand away, wiped her thumb on her skirt. Old glass did this. She'd read about it. Mercury backing, breaking down, creating distortions, double images. That's all this was. A trick of degraded silver and warped glass. She picked up her case, walked to the stairs, put her foot on the first step. It creaked. 1, she said. Her voice sounded wrong in the empty house, thin, like it might blow away. 2, 3. She climbed, counting each step aloud. 4, 5. Her case bumped the banister. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The landing. She stood there, breathing a little hard. Above her, just the next flight of stairs turning up to the second floor. Below, the narrow hall, the mirror catching what was left of the afternoon's light. She tried to see herself reflected from up here, but the angle was wrong. The second floor hallway was darker, one small window at the far end. The landlady had said, "Front room, first door on the right." Emily walked down the hall. These floorboards didn't creak the same way. Softer, more like sighs. She turned the white porcelain knob. The room was small, bed against one wall, wardrobe against another, table and chair by the window. Everything covered in dust sheets, gone gray with time. The fireplace was cold and black. She could see old ash crusted in the grate. Emily set down her case, went to the window. The curtain was heavy green velvet, damp when she touched it. She pulled it aside. The street below. A woman 2 doors down was still sweeping her steps, back and forth, back and forth. Further down, a lamplighter moving along the pavement, gas lamps flickering on one by one, pale yellow in the gathering dusk. Emily let the curtain fall. She should unpack.
Make the bed. Start a fire. But her mind kept going back to the hall, to the mirror, to that extra step, to the shape at the top of it. She shook her head. Just old glass, distorted silver, nothing more. She unbuckled her case. Inside, her clothes folded. 3 dresses, 2 nightgowns, her brush, the photograph of her mother in its small frame. She set the photograph on the table, then sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was thin. She could feel the slats underneath. Outside, the church bell struck. Once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5, then silence. Emily lay back without taking off her boots. The ceiling was cracked, lines spreading out like rivers, or veins, or cracks in old mirror glass. She closed her eyes. She could still see it, that 13th step, that dark shape, like someone standing just beyond focus. She opened her eyes. The room was darker now, the window just a gray square. In the walls, pipes knocked, a rhythm. Knock, pause, knock, knock, pause, like Morse code, like the house trying to tell her something. Her eyes closed again, just for a moment, just to rest. The knocking continued, and underneath it, something else. Footsteps, slow, climbing. Emily's eyes opened. The room was nearly black now. She lay still, listening. The footsteps, real, not imagined. Someone climbing the stairs. 1, 2, 3. But the house was empty. The landlady lived in the basement. 4, 5, 6. No other tenants. 7, 8, 9. Just her. 10, 11, 12. The footsteps stopped. Emily held her breath, counted her heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nothing. No 13th step, because there were only 12 stairs. She let her breath out. Old houses made sounds. Wood contracting. Pipes. That's all. She sat up. The room was so dark she couldn't see the window anymore. She fumbled for matches in her coat pocket. Found the box. Struck one. The flame was bright enough to hurt. She lit the lamp on the table. The glass chimney was dusty. The light spread thin and yellow. She could see the furniture under its sheets now. The fireplace. The door. Closed. Had she closed it? She couldn't remember. Emily stood. Her legs felt weak.
She walked to the door, put her ear against the wood. Nothing. Just the clock, somewhere, ticking. She turned the knob, opened the door. The hallway was black. The lamp's light only reached a few feet. Beyond that, nothing. She stood there, looking into the darkness, knowing that down there, at the bottom of the stairs, the mirror was waiting, reflecting something impossible, a 13th step, and whatever stood there. Emily closed the door, turned the key. The click was loud. She went back to the bed, pulled off her boots. They hit the floor. Thud, thud. She didn't undress, just pulled the coverlet over herself, lay there, staring at the invisible ceiling, listening, the clock ticking, the pipes knocking, wind around the window frame. And once, just once, so faint, footsteps again, climbing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then a pause that felt like hours. 13. Emily pulled the coverlet over her head, waited for morning. When she slept, finally, she dreamed of stairs that never ended, of mirrors showing rooms that didn't exist, of a girl in white standing at the top, looking down, waiting. The lamp burned lower, lower, until the flame died, and the room went dark, and the house was silent, except for the clock, ticking, ticking, measuring the hours until dawn, when she would have to go downstairs, past the mirror, past that impossible reflection, past the 13th step, and whatever waited there, in the space between glass and silver, between what is and what cannot be, but somehow is. Emily woke to gray light. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling above her was unfamiliar, cracks spreading like spider webs. Then she remembered. London, the new house, the mirror. She sat up. Her mouth tasted of metal and sleep. Her dress was twisted around her, wrinkled from sleeping in her clothes. The coverlet had fallen to the floor some time in the night. The room was cold. Her breath made small clouds. She could see frost on the inside of the window, delicate patterns like ferns. The clock downstairs struck 7 times. She had to go down, past the mirror. Her stomach tightened. She pulled on her boots. The leather was stiff from the cold, her fingers clumsy with the laces. She stood, smoothed her dress. It didn't help. At the door, she paused, her hand on the knob. Just open it. Just go down. It's only a mirror. Only glass and silver. She turned the key. The hallway was dim, that gray pre-dawn life that made everything look underwater. Emily walked to the stairs. Each footstep seemed too loud. At the top of the staircase, she stopped, looked down. She could see the mirror from here, just the top of the frame, the carved vines, dark against the darker wall. She started down, counting without meaning to. 1, 2, 3. Her hand on the banister. 4, 5, 6. The wood was cold under her palm. 7, 8, 9. She could see more of the mirror now. 10, 11, 12. The landing. She stopped, turned slowly. The mirror filled her vision. Morning light came weak through the transom window, caught in the spotted glass, made the mercury stains look like they were moving. Emily stepped closer. Her reflection moved with her. Pale face, dark dress rumpled from sleep, hair coming loose from its pins. Behind her, the staircase. She counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Still there. That extra step in the reflection, darker than the others. And at the top, the shape. This morning it seemed clearer somehow. Not sharp, but less blurred, like it was coming into focus. Emily pressed her hand against the glass. It was ice cold. She could feel the slight texture of the mercury spots under her palm. She moved her hand, left a print on the glass, foggy, fading as she watched. Behind her handprint, the 13th step remained. She pulled her hand away, wiped it on her dress. In the kitchen, she found tea, a tin canister on the shelf. The leaves were old, but they would do. She boiled water on the gas ring. The flame made a soft, roaring sound, like distant wind. While the kettle heated, she stood at the window. The back garden was overgrown, dead roses on tangled vines, a stone bird bath tipped on its side. The kettle whistled. She made the tea, weak and bitter, but hot. She wrapped her hands around the cup, stood in the kitchen doorway, where she could see down the hall to the mirror. From this angle, she could only see the edge of it, the carved frame, one corner with its small skull. She drank the tea. It burned her throat. At the museum, she couldn't concentrate. Her desk was in the basement, 3 floors below street level, stone walls that wept moisture, gas lamps burning all day because no natural light reached down this far. She was supposed to be cataloging a collection of medieval manuscripts, a donation from an estate in Surrey. The pages were brittle, brown at the edges, the Latin text faded to ghost impressions. But her hands kept stopping. Her mind kept returning to the mirror, to that 13th step, to the shape at the top. Miss Gray. She looked up. Mr. Pemberton stood by her desk, the head cataloger, gold beard, gold spectacles. He was frowning. "Are you quite well?" he said. "Yes," Emily said. "Yes, I'm sorry." "You've been staring at that same page for 20 minutes. He gestured at the manuscript open before her. "Is something troubling you?" "No," she said. "Just adjusting to the new lodgings. He studied her face. "You look as though you haven't slept." "The first night in a strange place," she said. He nodded slowly. "Take care of yourself, Miss Gray. We can't have our newest cataloger falling ill." He walked away, his footsteps echoing on the stone floor. Emily looked back at the manuscript. The Latin swam before her eyes. She forced herself to focus, to copy the text into her ledger. But her hand shook, the ink blotted. She had to start the line again. By the time she left the museum, it was dark. The streets were wet. It must have rained while she was underground. The gas lights reflected in the puddles, yellow streaks on black water. She walked slowly, putting off the return. But eventually she had to turn down Marchmont Street, had to open the gate, had to put the key in the lock. The house was dark. She stepped inside, closed the door, stood very still, listening. The clock ticking, water in the pipes, nothing else. She lit the lamp in the hall. The flame caught, grew, cast shadows that moved on the walls. The mirror. She made herself look. In the lamplight, the glass seemed darker. The mercury spots spread wider. Her reflection was dim, just a pale shape in the gloom. Behind her, the staircase. She counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Still there. Emily set down the lamp, went upstairs to her room, came back down with her notebook, black leather binding, pages of cream paper. She'd bought it in Manchester to record observations for her work. Now she would use it for this. She opened to a fresh page, wrote the date at the top, then began. Time, 6:47 p.m. Light source, single oil lamp placed on hall table. Weather, rain earlier, now stopped. Damp air. Observation. 13th step, visible in mirror. Appears approximately 8 inches in height. Darker than surrounding steps. Shape at top of 13th step, present. Appears to be. She paused. What did it appear to be? She looked at the mirror again, squinted, tried to make out details. The shape was vertical, taller than it was wide. The top was rounded, or maybe not rounded. Maybe it had. She couldn't tell. She wrote, shape is vertical, approximately 4 to 5 feet in height. Top portion lighter than bottom. Possible differentiation between upper and lower sections. She closed the notebook. For the next hour, she moved the lamp, placed it at different points in the hall. Each time, she recorded what she saw. Lamp on the left, 13th step visible, shape present. Lamp on the right, 13th step visible, shape present, but appears to shift slightly. Lamp held high, 13th step darker, shape less distinct. Lamp held low, 13th step. She stopped, stared. When the lamp was low, placed on the floor, the shape at the top of the 13th step seemed to have. She moved closer, squinted into the mirror. Was that? It looked like. The bottom portion of the shape seemed to spread out, like a skirt. Emily's hand trembled. She picked up the lamp, held it at different heights, watching the shape change. When the lamp was high, the shape was just a blur. When the lamp was low, the bottom spread, like fabric, like someone wearing a long dress. She set the lamp down, wrote in her notebook, her handwriting shaky now. Lamp placed at floor level. Shape appears to have wider base, consistent with long garment or dress. She closed the notebook, went to the kitchen, made more tea. Her hands were shaking so badly she spilled the leaves, had to clean them up, sweep them into the bin. She didn't drink the tea, just held the cup, stood in the doorway, looking at the mirror. At midnight, she tried again, this time with candles. She took all the candles she could find, 7 of them, placed them around the hall, on the floor, on the table, on the stairs themselves. The hall filled with flickering light, shadows dancing on the walls. The mirror seemed to ripple, the mercury spots moving in the candlelight. Emily stood in front of it. Her notebook open, recording. Multiple light sources, 13th step clearly visible, shape more defined. Upper portion appears to have... She leaned closer. The upper portion, was that... It looked like she could almost make out the top of the shape, the part she'd thought was rounded. It wasn't rounded. It had... Emily's breath caught. It looked like there was something on top of the shape, like a... She couldn't see clearly, but it might be a bow or a ribbon, or... Her hand went to her mouth. A child. It looked like a child in a dress with something in her hair. Emily backed away from the mirror. The candles guttered in the sudden movement of air. One went out, then another. She stood in the dimming light, staring. The shape at the top of the 13th step. A child, standing there, waiting. Emily bent, blew out the remaining candles. One by one, the hall went dark. She felt her way to the stairs, climbed them in the blackness, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No 13th. Not in reality, only in the mirror. In her room, she lit a single candle, sat at the small table, opened her notebook, wrote, "The shape is a child." Her hand stopped. She stared at what she'd written, then added, "or appears to be," then, "impossible to be certain in this light," then, "likely a trick of shadow and old glass." But her hand kept writing. Child approximately 4 feet tall, wearing long dress, something in hair, bow or ribbon, standing atop of the 13th step, looking down. She crossed out the last 2 words. She couldn't know it was looking down. She couldn't know it was looking at anything. It was just a blur, just a distortion in old silver. But when she closed her eyes, she could see it. A child in white, standing on a step that didn't exist, looking down into the hallway, waiting. For what? Emily opened her eyes, blew out the candle, lay down in the dark. Outside it began to rain again, soft at first, then harder. Water on the windows, water in the gutters, water running down the glass like tears. She lay awake, listening, waiting, for the sound of footsteps, for the slow climb. 1, 2, 3,
But the house was silent. Just rain, just wind, just the clock, ticking, ticking, measuring out the darkness until morning came, gray and cold, and she would have to look at the mirror again and count the steps again and see the child again, standing there, always standing there, on the 13th step that couldn't exist, but did.
Emily didn't go to the museum the next day. She sent a message with the milk boy, told Mr. Pemberton she was unwell. It wasn't entirely a lie. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it. The shape on the 13th step. The child, if it was a child. She had to know more about the mirror, about the house, about whoever had lived here before. The landlady would know. Mrs. Castell. That was the name on the lease. She lived in the basement flat. Emily had only met her once, the day she'd signed the papers. A woman in her 70s, maybe. Black dress, black shawl, gray hair pulled tight. She'd barely spoken, just handed over the key, took the first month's rent, told Emily the coal was extra. Now Emily stood at the top of the basement stairs, a separate entrance at the side of the house, iron railing, steps leading down, damp, green with moss. She descended carefully, holding the railing. The steps were slippery. At the bottom, a blue door, paint peeling. She knocked, waited, heard movement inside, slow footsteps. The door opened. Mrs. Castell stood there, the same black dress, or perhaps a different one, but identical. Flour on her hands. She'd been baking. "Miss Gray," she said. Her voice was flat, neither welcoming nor hostile, just neutral. "I'm sorry to disturb you," Emily said. "What is it?" Mrs. Castell said. Not unkindly, just direct. "I wondered if I might ask you something," Emily said. Mrs. Castell looked at her, then stepped back. "Come in, then." The basement flat was warm, a fire in the grate, steam rising from the kettle on the stove, the air thick with the smell of bread baking, and something else, lye soap, starch. Mrs. Castell went to the sink, washed the flour from her hands, didn't offer tea, just stood there, waiting. "The mirror," Emily said, "in the hallway." Mrs. Castell's hands stopped moving, just for a second, then continued, drying on a towel. "What about it?" she said. "I wondered where it came from," Emily said. "It was here when I took the house," Mrs. Castell said. "How long ago was that?" 32 years. "And before that," Emily said, "who lived here?" Mrs. Castell folded the towel, precise creases, laid it on the counter. "I don't recall," she said. But her hands trembled slightly. Emily saw it. "The mirror is very old," Emily said. "Very unusual, I suppose. Have you never thought of replacing it?" Mrs. Castell turned, looked at Emily directly for the first time. Her eyes were pale blue, watery. "Why would I?" she said. "It's just," Emily hesitated, "there's something strange about it." "Strange how?" Emily couldn't say it. Couldn't say there's a 13th step. Couldn't say, "I see a child." "The glass is distorted," she said instead. "It makes the reflection look wrong." Mrs. Castell was silent. Then, Old mirrors do that. Yes, Emily said. Yes, I know, but is that all? Mrs. Castell said, not quite dismissive, but close. The previous tenants, Emily tried again, did they ever mention the mirror? There haven't been any. None? You're the first since I bought the house. 32 years and no one else has lived here? Mrs. Castell's jaw tightened. I lived upstairs myself until my knees got bad. Now I keep to the basement. And before you bought it, Emily said, the family who owned it? That was a very long time ago. But do you remember their name? Mrs. Castell turned away, checked the bread in the oven. I don't see why it matters. I'm just curious, Emily said. About a mirror? About the house? Mrs. Castell closed the oven door. The past is the past, Miss Gray. Best to leave it alone. She walked to the door, opened it. The conversation was over. Emily stepped out into the damp stairwell. Mrs. Castell, she said, turning back, but the door was already closing. The last thing Emily saw was the old woman's face, pale, frightened. Then the door clicked shut. Emily climbed back up to street level, stood on the pavement. Mrs. Castell knew something, the way her hands had trembled, the way she'd avoided the questions, the fear in her eyes. Someone else might know. The neighbors. Emily looked at the houses on either side. Number 15 was dark, curtains drawn, no smoke from the chimney. Empty, maybe. Number 19, lights in the windows, smoke rising. She walked to the door, knocked. Footsteps inside, slow, uneven. The door opened. An old man stood there, tall, stooped, white hair, monocle in one eye. Yes, he said. I'm sorry to disturb you, Emily said. I'm your new neighbor, Emily Gray, number 17. Ah, he said. Finch, Harold Finch. He didn't shake her hand, just nodded, stood waiting. I wondered if I might ask you something. He studied her through the monocle, the eye behind it magnified, watery and pale. You'd better come in, he said. His parlor was stuffed with books, floor-to-ceiling shelves, stacks on tables, on chairs. Medical texts mostly, anatomy, ophthalmology, specimen jars on the mantelpiece, eyes floating in fluid, different sizes, different colors. He saw her looking. I was an eye surgeon, he said. Retired now, of course. He gestured to a chair. Her notebook, open, recording. Multiple light sources. 13th step clearly visible. Shape more defined. Upper portion appears to have... She leaned closer. The upper portion. Was that... It looked like she could almost make out the top of the shape, the part she'd thought was rounded. It wasn't rounded. It had... Emily's breath caught. It looked like there was something on top of the shape. Like a... She couldn't see clearly. But it might be a bow or a ribbon or... Her hand went to her mouth. A child. It looked like a child in a dress with something in her hair. Emily backed away from the mirror. The candles guttered in the sudden movement of air. One went out, then another. She stood in the dimming light, staring. The shape at the top of the 13th step. A child, standing there, waiting. Emily bent, blew out the remaining candles. One by one, the hall went dark. She felt her way to the stairs, climbed them in the blackness, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No 13th. Not in reality, only in the mirror. In her room she lit a single candle, sat at the small table, opened her notebook, wrote, "The shape is a child." Her hand stopped. She stared at what she'd written, then added, "or appears to be," then, "impossible to be certain in this light," then, "likely a trick of shadow and old glass," but her hand kept writing. Child approximately 4 feet tall, wearing long dress, something in hair, bow or ribbon, standing atop of the 13th step, looking down. She crossed out the last 2 words. She couldn't know it was looking down. She couldn't know it was looking at anything. It was just a blur, just a distortion in old silver. But when she closed her eyes, she could see it. A child in white, standing on a step that didn't exist, looking down into the hallway, waiting. For what? Emily opened her eyes, blew out the candle, lay down in the dark. Outside it began to rain again, soft at first, then harder. Water on the windows, water in the gutters, water running down the glass like tears. She lay awake, listening, waiting, for the sound of footsteps, for the slow climb. 1, 2, 3, but the house was silent. Just rain, just wind, just the clock, ticking, ticking, measuring out the darkness, until morning came, gray and cold, and she would have to look at the mirror again, and count the steps again, and see the child again, standing there, always standing there, on the 13th step that couldn't exist, but did. She went upstairs, lay on the bed, tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw her, a girl of 12, standing on a step that didn't exist, waiting. For what? For her mother who never came back? For someone to see her? For someone to remember? Emily opened her eyes, stared at the ceiling. Outside, it began to rain. Again. Always raining. The sound on the windows like fingers tapping. Tap. 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 Like someone asking to be let in. She pulled the coverlet over her head, but she could still hear it. The rain. And underneath it, something else. Footsteps. Slow. Climbing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Pause. Emily held her breath. 13. The sound of a footstep that shouldn't exist on a stair that wasn't there. She lay in the darkness, listening. knowing this wasn't going to stop, not until she understood, not until she found out what really happened to Eleanor Hartwell, to her mother, to the mirror, and why, after 38 years, the child was still there, still waiting, still standing on the 13th step. Emily stood outside the Camberwell District Archive. Gray stone building, Victorian, heavy, like it had been designed to hold the weight of all those years, all those records, all those deaths. She'd barely slept again. 3 nights now. Her reflection in the archive's glass door looked hollow, dark circles under her eyes, hair not quite pinned properly. She pushed the door open. The smell hit her immediately. Paper, old paper, that specific scent of decay and dust, like breathing in time itself. The entrance hall was dim. 1 gas lamp burning, a desk to the left. An old man sat behind it, hunched, almost folded in on himself, writing something in a ledger. He didn't look up. Emily approached, waited. He continued writing. Finally, she cleared her throat. "Yes," he said, still not looking up. "I need to access property records," Emily said. "Which district?" "Bloomsbury, Marchmont Street. Year 1880 to 1890. Now he looked up, rheumy eyes, suspicious. "That's a decade," he said. "I know. What are you looking for?" "Death records," Emily said. "Property transfers." He studied her. "Research," she said quickly. "For an article." Not quite a lie. She would write it down, document it, even if no one ever read it. He grunted, stood slowly, joints cracking. "Downstairs," he said. She followed him, down stone steps, worn smooth in the middle by decades of feet. The air grew colder as they descended, damper. The basement was low-ceilinged, brick walls weeping moisture, shelves stretching into darkness, boxes, files, ledgers, all of it slowly rotting. "Bloomsbury is there," he pointed to a section in the far corner, sorted by year. "Thank you." He left her, his footsteps slow on the stairs. Emily stood alone in the dim light, 1 gas lamp by the stairs, the rest of the basement in shadow. She found the section, pulled out the first box, 1880. Heavy, the cardboard soft with damp. She carried it to a small table, opened it. Inside, folders, yellowed paper, brown ink fading to ghosts. She began to read. Property transfers, birth records. Deaths. So many deaths. Consumption, typhoid, influenza, childbirth. The causes listed in neat handwriting, as if neatness could contain the horror of it. She worked through 1880. Nothing. 1881. Nothing. 1882. 1883. 1884. 1885. 1886. Still nothing. 1887. Her hands trembled as she opened the folder. Death records. January. February. March. April. May. There. Hartwell. Eleanor. Age 12 years. Address 17 Marchmont Street. Cause of death scarlet fever. Date May 14th, 1887. Emily stared at the page. The ink was brown, the paper brittle, but the words were clear. Eleanor Hartwell, dead at 12. Exactly as Dr. Finch had said. She copied the information into her notebook, her handwriting shaky, then continued through the file, looking for more. June, July, August. Nothing else about the Hartwells. She pulled out the property transfer records, searched. There, 17 Marchmont Street. Transfer of ownership. Date, September 1888. From Richard Hartwell to Margaret Castell. More than a year after Eleanor's death. Emily wrote it down, then searched further, looking for anything else, any other mention. At the bottom of the box, a smaller folder, thinner. She pulled it out. The label said, Miscellaneous, Personal Effects. She opened it. Inside, a photograph. Emily's breath caught. The photograph was mounted on card, brown with age. The image faded but visible. A girl standing on a staircase. She wore a white dress, lace, long sleeves, high collar. Her hair was dark, pulled back, something in it, a bow, white, large. Her face was young, serious, the way children looked in old photographs, because they had to stand so still for so long. No smiling, just stillness. Behind her, Emily could see it. The mirror, the same frame, the same carved vines, the same skulls at the corners, and reflected in the mirror, the girl standing on the stairs. Emily turned the photograph over. On the back, in faded ink, handwriting slanted and irregular. Eleanor Hartwell, May 1887. May she remain forever in our home. Mother. Emily's hands shook. She set the photograph down, stared at it. This was her. This was Eleanor, standing on the stairs. The same stairs Emily climbed every day. The same mirror behind her, reflecting her, capturing her, forever. Emily picked up the photograph again, studied it more closely. The staircase in the photograph. She counted the steps visible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Eleanor stood on the 6th step, looking down at the camera, at whoever was taking the photograph. Her mother, probably. The last photograph, taken in May, the same month she died. Emily turned the photograph over again,
read the inscription. May she remain forever in our home. What did that mean? She searched through the rest of the folder, found another document, a letter, unsealed. The envelope addressed to someone named Aldridge, Thomas Aldridge, Master Glazier. She unfolded the letter. The same handwriting as on the photograph, slanted, irregular, desperate. Dear Mr. Aldridge, I write to request your expertise in a matter of great delicacy. My daughter has recently passed from this world, and I find myself unable to bear the emptiness of the house without her. I have a photograph of her taken shortly before her death. I wish to have this photograph preserved within the large mirror in our entrance hall. I understand this is an unusual request, but I have been informed that mirrors can be constructed with double glazing, a layer of glass
In faded ink, handwriting slanted and irregular. Eleanor Hartwell, May 1887. May she remain forever in our home. Mother. Emily's hands shook. She set the photograph down, stared at it. This was her. This was Eleanor, standing on the stairs. The same stairs Emily climbed every day. The same mirror behind her, reflecting her, capturing her, forever. Emily picked up the photograph again, studied it more closely. The staircase in the photograph. She counted the steps visible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Eleanor stood on the 6th step, looking down at the camera, at whoever was taking the photograph. Her mother, probably. The last photograph, taken in May, the same month she died. Emily turned the photograph over again, read the inscription. May she remain forever in our home. What did that mean? She searched through the rest of the folder, found another document, a letter, unsealed. The envelope addressed to someone named Aldridge, Thomas Aldridge, Master Glazier. She unfolded the letter. The same handwriting as on the photograph, slanted, irregular, desperate. Dear Mr. Aldridge, I write to request your expertise in a matter of great delicacy. My daughter has recently passed from this world, and I find myself unable to bear the emptiness of the house without her. I have a photograph of her taken shortly before her death. I wish to have this photograph preserved within the large mirror in our entrance hall. I understand this is an unusual request, but I have been informed that mirrors can be constructed with double glazing, a layer of glass, then a small gap, then the silvered glass behind. The photograph could be placed in this gap so that when one looks in the mirror, one would see both the reflection and, underneath, the image of my daughter. She loved to stand upon those stairs, to play there. If her image could be preserved in that very spot,
It would be as if she remained with us. Please call upon me at your earliest convenience to discuss the particulars. Money is no object. I remain your servant, Catherine Hartwell. Emily read the letter twice, 3 times. The photograph, sealed inside the mirror, between layers of glass, so that Catherine Hartwell could see her daughter every day, standing on the stairs, forever. Emily sat back, her mind racing. The 13th step. It wasn't a step at all. It was the photograph, the image of Eleanor standing on the 6th step. But when reflected, when layered with the actual staircase, it appeared to be higher, appeared to be a 13th step. And the shape, the blurred figure, that was Eleanor. Not a ghost, not a spirit, just a photograph, trapped in glass for 38 years. Emily looked at the photograph again. Eleanor's serious face, her white dress, the bow in her hair. She'd been real, a real child who died.
And whose mother couldn't let her go. Emily felt tears on her cheeks. She wiped them away, copied the letter into her notebook, word for word, then searched for more. Found a death certificate for Catherine Hartwell. Date: March 12th, 1890. Place: Bethlehem Royal Hospital. Cause: melancholia. The asylum. Dr. Finch had been right. She died there 2 years after her daughter. Never recovered. Never stopped grieving. Emily closed the files, put everything back in the boxes, except the photograph. She held it, looked at Eleanor one more time. Then she couldn't. It felt wrong, like stealing. She put it back in the folder, carried the boxes back to the shelves, climbed the stairs. The old man barely glanced at her, just waved her out. Outside, the air was cold, rain threatening, the sky gray and low. Emily walked, not going anywhere specific, just walking, trying to process. The photograph was in the mirror. That explained everything. The 13th step, the shape, the child, all of it. Just light, just glass, just an old photograph. Nothing supernatural, nothing impossible, just grief, a mother's grief, preserved in silver and glass. Emily stopped walking, found herself at a small park, sat on a bench, wet from earlier rain. She didn't care. She thought about Catherine Hartwell, losing her daughter, unable to accept it, asking a glazier to seal Eleanor's photograph in the mirror so she could see her every time she passed through the hall, every time she climbed the stairs. Eleanor, always there, always 12, always in her white dress, always waiting. And then Catherine had been taken away to the asylum. Had she thought about the mirror? Had she wondered if Eleanor was still there, still standing on the stairs, still waiting for her mother to come home. Emily wiped her face. The rain started, light at first, then heavier. She sat there, getting wet, not moving, thinking about mothers and daughters, about grief that couldn't end, about love that trapped instead of freed. Finally, she stood, walked back to Marchmont Street, to number 17, to the house where Eleanor had lived and died, and somehow remained. Inside, she stood in the hallway, dripping, the mirror before her. She looked at her reflection, pale, wet, sad. Behind her, the stairs, and on the 13th step that wasn't a step, Eleanor, still there, still waiting.
"I know who you are," Emily whispered. The mirror showed nothing, just reflection, just glass. But somewhere, sealed between the layers, Eleanor's photograph, fading, slowly, over decades, but still there, still visible. If you knew where to look, if you understood what you were seeing. Emily reached out, pressed her hand to the glass. "I'm sorry," she said. Sorry for Eleanor. Sorry for Catherine. Sorry for all of it. The cold glass under her palm. The house silent around her. The rain outside. And between the layers of mirror, a 12-year-old girl, frozen forever in May 1887, never growing older, never leaving, never free. Emily took her hand away, went upstairs, lay on the bed, stared at the ceiling. Now she knew, but knowing didn't help, didn't change anything. Eleanor was still there, still trapped, still waiting for a mother who would never return. Outside, the rain fell harder. The room grew dark. Emily closed her eyes, and for the first time in days, when she heard the footsteps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. She didn't feel afraid, just sad. So sad.
Emily didn't go back to the archive the next day, or the day after. She couldn't. Not yet. Every time she thought about Catherine Hartwell's letter, that desperate handwriting, that impossible request, she felt something break inside her. Instead, she went to the museum, tried to work, tried to focus on the manuscripts, medieval Latin, prayers for the dead, instructions for burial rites, how to prepare a body, how to say goodbye. She couldn't concentrate. Mr. Pemberton found her staring at the same page. "Miss Gray," he said. She looked up. "You're not well," he said. Not a question. "I'm fine." "You're clearly not." He sat down across from her. "You've lost weight. You look as though you haven't slept in a week." "Just adjusting," she said. "To what?" he said. "London or something else?"
She didn't answer. He sighed. "Take the rest of the week," he said. "I don't need—" "It's not a suggestion," he said. "Go home. Rest. Eat something. Sleep." He stood. "And perhaps," he paused, "perhaps consider finding different lodgings." He walked away before she could ask what he meant. But she knew. He'd seen it in her face. Whatever was happening to her, it showed. She left the museum, walked to Highgate, the cemetery. She'd been putting it off, but she needed to see, needed to know where Eleanor was. The gates were iron, rusted, squealing when she pushed them open. Inside, paths winding between graves, monuments, angels with broken wings, crosses tilted by time, ivy growing over everything. The fog was heavy. She could barely see 20 feet ahead, shapes looming out of the grayness, then disappearing again. She walked slowly, reading names, dates, looking for Hartwell. The cemetery was vast. She wandered for an hour, maybe more, getting lost, finding herself at the same chapel twice. Finally, in the old section, Victorian graves, ornate, expensive. She found it. A small plot, enclosed by iron railings. The gate hung crooked, one hinge broken. Inside, 3 headstones. Emily pushed open the gate. It scraped on stone, the sound too loud in the fog-muffled silence. She stepped inside. The first stone, Richard Hartwell, born 1845, died 1998. Eleanor's father.
He'd lived 11 years after his daughter. 11 years after his wife was committed. Had he been alone all that time? Had he stayed in the house? Or had he left, unable to bear the memories? The second stone, Catherine Hartwell, born 1850, died 1890. Wife, mother, nothing else. No mention of Eleanor. No reunited with her daughter. No comfort at all. Just dead. And the third stone, smaller, Eleanor Hartwell, born 1875, died 1887, age 12 years, forever our light. Emily knelt. The ground was wet, soaking through her skirt. She didn't care. She touched the stone. Cold, rough, lichen growing in the carved letters. Someone had left flowers, long dead, brown, brittle, violets. Emily picked one up. It crumbled in her fingers. Who had left them? Not recently. The stems were long decayed. But someone had come. Someone had remembered. She stayed there, kneeling, thinking about Eleanor, 12 years old, buried here, while her mother slowly went mad.
seeing her in the mirror, talking to her, believing she was still in the house. And maybe, in a way, she was. Emily stood, her knees aching, walked back through the cemetery, the fog thicker now. She almost got lost again, but finally found the gates. Outside, she stopped, looked back. The cemetery disappeared into the grayness. All those dead, all that grief, all that loss. She turned away, walked back toward the city. That evening she went to the library, the public one near Russell Square, asked for newspaper archives. The librarian, a thin woman with severe glasses, showed her to a back room. Bound volumes, the Times, the Daily Telegraph. Year by year, Emily found 1887, began searching. May, looking for any mention, found it. May 16th, small notice. Death of a child. Eleanor Hartwell, daughter of Mr. Richard Hartwell, solicitor. Died May 14th of scarlet fever. Aged 12 years. Funeral to be held May 18th at St. George's, Bloomsbury. That was all. Just a few lines. A child's life, reduced to nothing. Emily kept searching. 1888. Nothing. 1889. Nothing. 1890. March. Found it. Larger article. Tragedy at Bethlehem.
Mrs. Catherine Hartwell, resident of the Women's Ward at Bethlehem Royal Hospital, was found deceased in her room on the morning of March 12th. Medical staff report she had been in declining health since her admission in 1888, suffering from acute melancholia following the death of her only child. Mrs. Hartwell had been largely uncommunicative during her confinement, spending hours staring at the wall and speaking only to address her deceased daughter. Dr. Williams, chief physician, stated that such cases of maternal grief were not uncommon, but rarely resulted in recovery. Mr. Richard Hartwell, the deceased's husband, declined to comment. Emily read it 3 times. Spending hours staring at the wall and speaking only to address her deceased daughter. Catherine had never stopped, even in the asylum, even locked away. She'd kept talking to Eleanor, kept believing she could hear, kept believing she was there. Emily found one more article. June 1888. Smaller. Committal proceedings. Mr. Richard Hartwell has petitioned for the committal of his wife, Mrs. Catherine Hartwell, to Bethlehem Royal Hospital, citing increasing instability following the death of their daughter 1 year prior. Neighbors testified to Mrs. Hartwell's disturbed behavior, including claims that she maintained conversations with the deceased child, refused to allow the child's room to be altered, and insisted that mirrors in the home contained the child's spirit. The petition was granted. Insisted that mirrors in the home contained the child's spirit. Emily sat back. Catherine hadn't just wanted to preserve Eleanor's image. She'd actually believed that Eleanor was in the mirror, that the photograph was more than just paper and chemicals, that it was her. Emily closed the volume, her hands shaking. She thought about the letter to the glazier. Catherine had written it. Had she ever sent it? Had Aldridge come? Had he done what she asked? Or had Richard stopped it? Had he refused? But then, the photograph was in the mirror. Emily had seen it. Or the effect of it. The 13th step. Eleanor's shape. So it must have been done, either before Catherine was committed, or... Emily's breath caught. What if Richard had done it? After Catherine was gone, a final gift to his mad wife, who would never see it, who would die in the asylum, never knowing. But no, that didn't make sense. Why would he? Emily rubbed her face. She was so tired. Tired of thinking, tired of piecing together, tired of all of it. She left the library, walked home. It was dark now, the street lamps lit, fog rolling in. At number 17, she stood outside for a long moment, looking at the windows. Dark, no one home. Just her, and the mirror, and Eleanor. Inside, she lit the hallway lamp, stood before the mirror. Her reflection looked back, hollow, haunted, like Catherine must have looked in those last months before they took her away. "I understand," Emily whispered, to the mirror, to Catherine, to whoever was listening. "I understand why you did it." The mirror gave no answer, just showed her own face, and behind her, the stairs, 12 steps, and one more, that 13th step, where Eleanor stood, forever. Emily climbed the stairs, went to her room, sat at the small desk, opened her notebook, and began to write. Not observations, not documentation, but a letter. Dear Mrs. Hartwell, you don't know me. I live in your house now, the house where Eleanor died. I found your letter, the one you wrote to Mr. Aldridge. I know what you did. I know you had her photograph sealed in the mirror. I see her there sometimes, when the light is right, on the 13th step. I want you to know I understand. I understand why you couldn't let her go, why you needed to keep her close, why you talked to her even when everyone said she was gone. She wasn't gone, was she? Not to you. She was in the mirror, standing on the stairs, waiting for you. I'm sorry they took you away. I'm sorry you died there. I'm sorry you never came back. But she's still here, still waiting, still standing on that step. I don't know if that's what you wanted, or if it's a curse, or if it's both. But she's here, and I see her, and I won't forget. I won't forget Eleanor. I won't forget you. I promise. Emily's hand stopped, tears falling on the page, blurring the ink. She set down the pen, folded the letter, knew she would never send it, couldn't send it. Catherine was dead, buried in Highgate, next to Eleanor, after 38 years. But Emily needed to write it, needed to say it, even if no one ever read it. She lay down, still dressed, pulled the coverlet over her, and listened for the footsteps. They came, like always, slow, climbing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, pause, 13. Emily closed her eyes. "Good night, Eleanor," she whispered. The house was silent, but in the silence, Emily thought she heard something. Not a voice, not words, just a presence, an acknowledgement, like Eleanor had heard, like she was listening, like after all these years, someone finally understood. Outside, the fog pressed against the windows. Inside, the house settled. And somewhere, between layers of glass, a photograph slowly faded, but didn't disappear. Wouldn't disappear. Not as long as someone remembered. Not as long as someone saw. Not as long as someone cared. Not the pipes, not the house settling, real knocking, someone at the door. She sat up, disoriented. Gray light through the window. Morning. She'd slept, actually slept. The knocking came again, louder. She stood, smoothed her dress. It was hopelessly wrinkled. She'd slept in it. Again. Down the stairs, past the mirror. She didn't look, not this time. At the door she paused, listened. "Miss Gray," a voice. "It's Finch, Harold Finch." She opened the door. The old doctor stood there, coat buttoned, hat in hand, his monocle catching the gray light. "Dr. Finch," she said. "May I come in?" he said. She stepped aside. He entered, looked around the hallway, his gaze stopping on the mirror. "I've been thinking about our conversation," he said. "Oh? You've been to the archive," he said, not a question. "How did you—" "I know the archivist," he said. "He mentioned a young woman asking about the Hartwells." He turned to her. "You found something?" Emily nodded. "The letter," she said. "Catherine's letter to the glazier." "Ah," he set his hat on the coat stand. "May I—" He gestured to the mirror. "Of course." He walked to it, stood close, peering through his monocle, examining the frame, the glass. "Victorian," he said. "Late period. The frame is ebony, expensive." He ran his finger along the edge. "And the glass." He leaned closer. "Double glazed," he said. "You can tell?" "The thickness," he said. "See here?" He pointed. "The edge.
You can see 2 layers. Emily looked. He was right. At the very edge, where the glass met the frame, there was a gap. Thin, perhaps a 1/4 inch. 2 pieces of glass with space between. She did it, Finch said. Catherine. She had it done. The photograph, Emily said, must be sealed between the layers. Finch nodded. That's why you see the apparition. He stepped back, looked at the stairs, then at the reflection.
When light hits the glass at certain angles, he said, it passes through the first layer, illuminates the photograph, then reflects back, creating the illusion, Emily said. Not an illusion, Finch corrected. An optical phenomenon. Real light, real image. Just unexpected. He turned to her. Would you like to prove it? He said. Prove it? Scientifically, he said. I have instruments. We could measure the light angles, document the effect. Emily hesitated. Part of her didn't want to reduce it to science, but part of her needed to know, needed to understand completely. Yes, she said. Good. He picked up his hat. I'll return this evening. Bring what we need. He paused at the door. Miss Gray, he said, this obsession, it's not healthy. I'm not obsessed. He looked at her. Really looked. You look like Catherine did, he said quietly, in those last months before Richard had her commuted. I'm not nothing like. Aren't you, he said, fixated on the mirror, on the child, unable to sleep, unable to eat. That's different, is it? He put on his hat. We'll do the experiment, prove it's just light and glass, and then, perhaps, you can let it go. He left. Emily stood in the hallway, alone. Was he right? Was she becoming like Catherine? She looked at the mirror. Her reflection stared back. Thin, dark circles, hair unkempt. She did look unwell. She turned away, went to the kitchen, made tea, forced herself to drink it, forced herself to eat bread. It tasted like paper, but she ate it. The day passed slowly. She tried to read, couldn't focus, tried to write in her notebook. The words wouldn't come. She kept looking at the clock, waiting. Finally, just after 6, knocking. She opened the door. Dr. Finch stood there, arms full of equipment. A wooden case, a tripod, something wrapped in cloth. Help me, he said. She took the case, heavy. They carried everything inside, set it down in the hallway. Finch unwrapped the cloth, revealed a complex device. Brass and glass, lenses, mirrors. Photometer, he said. Measures light intensity. He set it on the tripod, opened the case. Inside, more instruments. Protractor, measuring tape, candles, notebook. First, he said, we establish baseline measurements. He positioned the photometer, aimed it at the mirror, adjusted dials, peered through an eyepiece, made notes. Emily watched, fascinated despite herself. Now, he said, we need controlled light sources. He placed candles, specific positions, measured the distances, recorded everything. Light the first candle, he said. Emily struck a match, lit the candle. Finch peered through the photometer. Interesting, he muttered, made more notes. The second, she lit it. Third, one by one. 5 candles, positioned at different angles, different heights. Finch kept measuring, adjusting, recording. "There," he said finally. He stepped back, gestured to the mirror. Emily looked. In the candlelight, the 13th step was clearer, more defined, and the shape, Eleanor. She could see her. The white dress, the dark hair, the bow. "Now watch," Finch said. He moved one candle, just slightly. The image shifted, became less clear. He moved it back. The image sharpened again. "The angle of incidence," he said. "Exactly 37 degrees. He showed her his notes, diagrams, calculations. "At this angle," he explained, "light penetrates the first layer of glass, strikes the photograph, and reflects back out, creating the image. Precisely." He pointed to the 13th step. "The photograph shows Eleanor standing on, the 6th step? Yes. But when the image is reflected and overlaid on the actual staircase," he continued, "the perspective creates the illusion that she's standing higher." He pulled out paper, sketched quickly, showed her the angles, the reflections, how the two images, real stairs and photograph, combined, creating the impossible 13th step. "It's brilliant, actually," he said, "whether Catherine understood the optics or just got lucky." He measured the mirror again. "And the gap between the glass layers," he said, "exactly 1/4 inch, just enough for the photograph." He touched the edge of the frame. "It would have been sealed after the photograph was inserted," he said. "The first layer of glass removed, photograph placed, frame reassembled." "So she really is in there," Emily said quietly. "The photograph is," Finch corrected. But Emily shook her head. "No," she said. "She is Eleanor." Finch looked at her, said nothing, just continued his measurements. After an hour, maybe more, he packed up his instruments. "I'll write this up," he said, "document it properly. An interesting case of Victorian mortuary practices." "Mortuary practices?" "Preserving the image of the dead," he said. "Not uncommon in that era, though usually in lockets or frames, not in mirrors." He paused. "But now you know," he said. "Now you understand. It's just physics. Light and glass. Nothing supernatural." "I know," Emily said. "Do you?" He studied her face. "Because knowing it intellectually and accepting it emotionally, those are different things." "I accept it." "Then you'll be able to move on." "Move on?" "From this," he gestured at the mirror, "from the obsession." Emily didn't answer. Finch sighed. "Miss Gray." "Eleanor is dead. She's been dead for 38 years. She's buried in Highgate. What you see in this mirror, it's not her. It's not her ghost. It's not her spirit. It's a photograph, paper and chemicals, nothing more." "I know that." "Then why?" He stopped, shook his head.
Never mind. Thank you for allowing me to examine it. He picked up his equipment. At the door, he turned. Get some sleep, he said. Eat. Take care of yourself. The dead don't need your grief. The living do need your health. He left. Emily stood alone, looked at the mirror. The candles still burning. 5 flames, reflecting, multiplying in the spotted glass. She walked closer, looked at the 13th step, at Eleanor. I know you're just a photograph, she said. The mirror showed nothing, just reflection, just light. But she loved you. Emily continued. Your mother, she loved you so much she went mad. She touched the glass. And you've been here all this time, waiting.
Her fingers traced the edge of the frame, found where the glass met the wood. She could feel it, the thin gap, the seal. Behind it, between the layers, the photograph. Eleanor, frozen, forever 12, forever in her white dress, forever standing on the stairs. Emily pressed her palm to the glass. I won't forget, she whispered. I won't let anyone forget. She stood there, hand on the mirror, until the candles began to gutter, one by one, the light fading, the image of Eleanor fading with it, becoming less distinct, less clear, until it was just a blur, a shadow, a ghost of a photograph, of a girl who died so long ago. Emily blew out the last candle. The hallway went dark. She stood in the darkness, listening for footsteps. They came, slow, climbing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Good night, Eleanor, Emily said, and in the darkness she thought she heard something. A whisper, a sigh, or maybe just the wind, but it sounded like good night. Emily woke to voices downstairs. She sat up, listened. 2 voices. One was Mrs. Castell. The other, a man. Deep, unfamiliar. She got up, pulled on her shawl, went to the door, opened it quietly. The voices clearer now, coming from the hallway below. Can't keep going like this, the man was saying. I know, Mrs. Castell. She's been asking questions, the man said. I didn't tell her anything, but she found out anyway, he said. Finch told me she went to the archive. She knows about Eleanor. Silence. Then Mrs. Castell. What do we do? Nothing, the man said. It's too late now. She knows. Emily moved to the top of the stairs, careful, quiet. She could see them now. Mrs. Castell in her black dress, and a man, tall, gray suit, bowler hat in his hands, his back to her. I should have told her from the start, Mrs. Castell said. You couldn't, the man said. She had a right to know. She wouldn't have taken the room. Maybe that would have been better, Mrs. Castell said, her voice breaking. Look at her. She's wasting away, just like... She stopped. The man put his hand on her shoulder. You did what you thought was right, he said. Did I? Mrs. Castell said. Or did I just want someone else in this house so I wouldn't be alone with it? Emily's foot touched the next step. The board creaked. Both of them turned, looked up. Mrs. Castell's face went white. The man, perhaps 50, graying hair, tired eyes. He looked familiar somehow. Miss Gray, Mrs. Castell said. Emily came down the stairs, slowly, into the hallway. The mirror reflected all three of them. I'm sorry, Mrs. Castell said. I didn't mean to wake you. Who are you? Emily said to the man. Thomas Castell, he said. Margaret's son. He nodded at Mrs. Castell. I didn't know you had a son, Emily said. He doesn't live here, Mrs. Castell said. My mother wrote to me, Thomas said, about you, about the mirror. He looked at it, his expression unreadable. You know? Emily said. Yes. You know about Eleanor? Yes. Tell me. Thomas looked at his mother. She nodded, slowly. Perhaps we should sit down, he said. They went to the kitchen. Mrs. Castell put the kettle on, her hands shaking. They sat at the small table. Thomas turned his hat in his hands. My mother worked for the Hardwells, he began, starting in 1885. She was the maid. Mrs. Castell stood by the stove, not looking at them. She was there when Eleanor got sick, Thomas continued. She helped nurse her, was there when she died. I held her hand, Mrs. Castell said quietly. At the end, Mrs. Hartwell couldn't. She'd collapsed. So I held Eleanor's hand, told her it would be all right. Her voice broke.
The kettle began to whistle. She didn't move. Thomas stood, took the kettle off, made the tea himself. After Eleanor died, he said, Mrs. Hartwell broke. She wouldn't leave the house, Mrs. Castell said. Wouldn't let anyone touch Eleanor's things. Spent hours sitting on the stairs, talking to her. Mr. Hartwell tried to help, Thomas said. Brought in doctors, but nothing worked. Then she got the idea, Mrs. Castell said. She turned, faced them. About the mirror, Emily said. Mrs. Castell nodded.
She'd had a photograph taken, she said, of Eleanor, just before she got sick. Eleanor standing on the stairs. That was her favorite place to play. She poured the tea, her hands steadier now. Mrs. Hartwell became convinced, she continued, that if she could put Eleanor's photograph in the mirror, then Eleanor would always be there, on the stairs, where she belonged. So she wrote to a glazier, Emily said. Mr. Aldridge. Mrs. Castell nodded. But Mr. Hartwell found the letter, refused to let her send it, said it was madness. She sat down. But Mrs. Hartwell begged me, she said. Begged me to help her. She gave me the letter, gave me money, asked me to go to Mr. Aldridge myself. And you did, Emily said. I shouldn't have, Mrs. Castell said. I know that now, but she was so desperate. And I loved Eleanor too. She was such a sweet child. Tears ran down her cheeks. Mr. Aldridge came, she continued, while Mr. Hartwell was at his office. He and I took apart the mirror frame so carefully, removed the front glass. Mrs. Hartwell placed Eleanor's photograph inside, right where she wanted it. Then Mr. Aldridge sealed it back up. How did Mr. Hartwell react? Emily asked. He never knew, Thomas said. Mother made sure the work was done during the day, had it cleaned and polished. By the time he came home, it looked exactly as it always had. But Mrs. Hartwell knew, Mrs. Castell said. She would stand in front of it for hours, talking to Eleanor, seeing her. Did she really see her, or did she just believe? Both, Mrs. Castell said. When the light was right, you could see it. The photograph showing through, Eleanor standing there. She looked at Emily. Just like you see her. But Mr. Hartwell, Emily said. Never noticed, Thomas said. Or if he did, he never said. By then, he'd made up his mind he was going to have his wife committed. Did she know? Emily asked. Mrs. Castell nodded. The day they came for her, she said. She stood in front of the mirror, said goodbye to Eleanor, told her to wait, that she'd come back. Mrs. Castell's voice broke again. But she never did, she whispered. They sat in silence, the tea cooling, untouched. After Mrs. Hartwell was taken away, Thomas said, Mr. Hartwell stayed for a few more months, but he couldn't bear it. The house, the memories. He left. And you bought it, Emily said to Mrs. Castell. Yes, she said. Mr. Hartwell sold it cheap, wanted to be rid of it. I had some savings. Thomas helped. But why? Emily asked. Why did you want it? Mrs. Castell looked at the table. Because of Eleanor, she said quietly. Because I'd promised Mrs. Hartwell I'd look after her, and she was still there, in the mirror, waiting. Mother has kept this house for 38 years, Thomas said. Never sold it, never changed anything. Because Eleanor is still here, Mrs. Castell finished. Still waiting for her mother to come back. She looked at Emily. I know it sounds mad, she said. It doesn't, Emily said quietly. Mrs. Castell reached across the table,
took Emily's hand. "When you came," she said, "I was so relieved. I'd been so alone, just me and the house and Eleanor. But then I saw what it was doing to you, saw you getting thinner, paler, saw you staring at the mirror the way Mrs. Hartwell used to. And I realized," she said, "I'd done to you what the house did to Mrs. Hartwell, trapped you." "I'm not trapped," Emily said. "Aren't you?" Thomas said. "Mother says you barely eat, barely sleep, spend all your time thinking about Eleanor." "Because someone should," Emily said. "Someone does," Mrs. Castell said. "I do. I've never forgotten her, never stopped thinking about her." She stood, went to a drawer, pulled out something, came back, set it on the table. A small bundle, wrapped in cloth. She unwrapped it. Inside, a child's hair ribbon, white, faded to cream. "Eleanor's," Mrs. Castell said. "She wore it the day of the photograph. I kept it. All these years." She touched it gently. "And this," she pulled out something else. A small book. Emily recognized it. A diary. "Mrs. Hartwell's," Mrs. Castell said. "She gave it to me the day they took her. Asked me to keep it, to remember." She pushed it toward Emily. "Read it," she said, "if you want to understand." Emily opened the diary. The handwriting, slanted, irregular.
"The same as the letter," she read. "May 15th, 1887. Eleanor is gone. I cannot write more. May 20th. The funeral is over. They put her in the ground, but she is not there. She is here. I hear her on the stairs. June 3rd. Richard says I must stop, must accept. But how can I accept what is not true? She is here. I see her. June 18th. I have had the photograph placed in the mirror. Now I can see her always, standing on the stairs, waiting for me. Richard does not understand, but Margaret does. Dear Margaret, she helped me. Now Eleanor will never truly leave. The entries continued, shorter, more fragmented. July 2nd. I spoke to her today. She smiled. August 10th. Richard is angry. Says I am unwell. But I am not. I am the only one who sees clearly. September 5th. They are coming. Richard has arranged it. I must go, but I will come back. I promise Eleanor. I will come back. That was the last entry. Emily closed the diary, her hands shaking. She never came back, Mrs. Castell said. No. They sat in silence. Then Emily said, "What do we do?" "Do," Mrs. Castell said. "About Eleanor," Emily said. "About the mirror." "What can we do?" Thomas said. "We could take it apart," Emily said. "Remove the photograph." Mrs. Castell's face went pale. "No," she said. "Mother," Thomas said. "No," Mrs. Castell repeated. "That's all she has left. That photograph, that place in the mirror, that's all Mrs. Hartwell left her." "But she's been there for 38 years, Emily said. "And she'll be there as long as this house stands," Mrs. Castell said. She looked at Emily. "I won't remove her," she said. "I won't." "Then what?" Emily said. Mrs. Castell stood. "We remember," she said. "We remember Eleanor. We remember Mrs. Hartwell. We remember what love can do, both beautiful and terrible." She walked to the door, paused. "You can leave if you want," she said. "I'll understand. I should have told you from the start." "I'm not leaving," Emily said. Mrs. Castell turned. "Why not?" "Because," Emily said, "because Eleanor deserves better than to be forgotten, and I won't forget." Mrs. Castell's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. "Thank you," she whispered, then left. Thomas stood. "You don't have to do this," he said to Emily. "I know. Mother has carried this burden for decades," he said. "You don't have to share it." "Maybe I want to," Emily said. He studied her. "You're like her," he said. "Like Mrs. Hartwell. Like my mother. You can't let go." "Maybe," Emily said. "Or maybe I just understand what it means to love someone so much that you can't bear to lose them." He picked up his hat. "Be careful," he said. "This kind of love, it consumes." He left. Emily sat alone in the kitchen, the diary on the table, Eleanor's ribbon. She picked up the ribbon, held it, soft, fragile, worn. She thought about Eleanor, wearing this, standing on the stairs.
And while her mother took the photograph, not knowing that it would be the last time that she would die, that her mother would go mad, that she would be trapped forever in glass. Emily stood, went to the hallway. The mirror waited. She looked at her own reflection, and behind her, the stairs, and on the 13th step, Eleanor. "I know now," Emily said. "I know what happened. I know what your mother did. I know she loved you." The mirror showed nothing, just reflection. "And I promise," Emily said, "I'll remember. I'll make sure others remember. You won't be forgotten. Never." She pressed her hand to the glass, right where Eleanor's image appeared, and whispered, "I promise." Spring came slowly to London. The fog thinned, the rain became softer, and the light changed.
Emily noticed it first in early March. She was coming down the stairs. Morning, sun breaking through clouds, rare. The light came through the transom window, hit the mirror at a different angle, and Eleanor, the image of Eleanor, was fainter. Emily stopped, halfway down the stairs, stared. She could still see her, the white dress, the dark hair, but less distinct, as if she were fading. Emily came down the rest of the way, stood in front of the mirror, pressed close, looked carefully. The photograph, between the layers of glass, was deteriorating. After 38 years, the paper yellowing, the image breaking down. Eleanor was disappearing, slowly but inevitably. Emily felt something break inside her. She went to Mrs. Castell, found her in the kitchen, baking bread like always. "She's fading," Emily said. Mrs. Castell's hands stopped, covered in flour. "I know," she said quietly. "You knew?" "I've watched it happen," Mrs. Castell said, "year by year. So slow, but yes, I've seen." She turned, looked at Emily. "Nothing lasts forever," she said. "Not even photographs." "How long?" Emily asked. "Before she's gone completely?" Mrs. Castell said. "I don't know. Years, maybe. Decades. But eventually." She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Emily went back to the mirror, studied Eleanor's image, tried to memorize every detail. The curve of her cheek, the fold of her dress, the bow in her hair. All of it, slowly disappearing. That evening, Emily sat at her desk, opened her notebook, and began to write. Not observations, not documentation, but a story. Eleanor's story. She wrote about a girl who loved to play on the stairs, about a mother who loved her daughter so much she couldn't let her go, about a photograph sealed in glass, about love that became a kind of prison, but also a kind of immortality. She wrote for hours, the lamp burning low, her hand cramping, but she kept writing, because someone needed to tell it before it was all forgotten, before Eleanor faded completely. The next day, she went to the British Museum, to Mr. Pemberton. "I need to speak with you," she said. He looked up from his desk, frowned. "Miss Gray," he said, "you look better." It was true. She'd been eating, sleeping, not well, but better. "I want to write something," she said, "an article about Victorian mourning practices, about photograph preservation." "Oh," he set down his pen.
"Specifically," she continued, "about the practice of sealing photographs in mirrors. I have a primary source, original documents, a case study." He leaned back, interested now. "Go on." She told him. Not everything. Not about the obsession. Not about the sleepless nights. Not about hearing footsteps. But about Eleanor. About Catherine. About the mirror. About the photograph sealed in glass. When she finished, he was quiet. Then, "This is remarkable," he said. "I want to publish it," Emily said, "in the Journal of Victorian Studies. You should, he said. This is exactly the kind of primary research they want. Will you use real names? Emily hesitated. Yes, she said, because Eleanor deserved to be remembered by name, by story, by truth. Then write it, he said. I'll help you submit it. She spent weeks on the article, writing, rewriting, checking facts, copying documents. She went back to the archive, collected everything she could find: birth records, death records, property transfers, the letter, the diary entries, all of it. She wrote carefully, objectively, explaining the optical phenomenon, the double-glazed mirror, the angle of light, but also the emotion, the grief, the love. She ended the article. Eleanor Hartwell died May 14, 1887, age 12. Her mother, unable to accept this loss, had Eleanor's photograph sealed within a mirror, creating a permanent image that would appear when light struck the glass at specific angles. Catherine Hartwell died in Bethlehem Royal Hospital in 1890, never recovering from her grief. But Eleanor remains, visible still, a testament to a mother's love and to the lengths we go to preserve what we cannot bear to lose. She submitted it in April, heard back in May, accepted. It would be published in the autumn issue. Emily told Mrs. Castell. The old woman cried. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for remembering her." "I'll always remember," Emily said, and she meant it. As spring turned to summer, Emily fell into a routine. She worked at the museum, came home in the evenings, and always, before going upstairs, she stopped at the mirror, looked for Eleanor. Sometimes the light was right, and she could see her, faint, getting fainter, but there. "Good night, Eleanor," she would say, every night. And sometimes she bought violets, fresh ones, put them in a small vase, set them by the mirror. Mrs. Castell saw, said nothing, but Emily noticed when the violets died, they were replaced by fresh ones. Mrs. Castell was doing it, continuing what Emily had started. In June, Dr. Finch came to visit. Emily made tea. They sat in the parlor. "You look well," he said. "I am." "You've made peace with it," he said. "Not a question." "I have." "The mirror." "Still there," Emily said, "still showing Eleanor when the light is right." "And you're all right with that?" "Yes," Emily said. Because, Emily said, because she deserves to be remembered. And the mirror, it's not a haunting, it's a memorial. Finch nodded slowly. "You've changed your perspective." "I've understood it better," Emily said. "It's not about letting go. It's about holding on, but in a way that doesn't destroy." "That's very wise," he said. They drank their tea. Then he said, "I heard you published an article." "Yes." "About Eleanor?" "Yes." "I'm glad," he said. "She should be remembered. They both should." He paused. "I was their doctor," he said. "I saw what the grief did to Catherine. I couldn't help her, couldn't stop it." "You tried?" Emily said. "Did I?" he said. "Or did I just tell her to accept what she couldn't accept?" He set down his cup. "Maybe you're right," he said. "Maybe the mirror isn't a prison. Maybe it's love, taking a different form." After he left, Emily stood at the mirror, the evening light coming in, golden, warm. Eleanor was barely visible, just a suggestion, a ghost of an image. But there. "Dr. Finch understands now," Emily said. The mirror showed nothing, just reflection, just light. "Your mother loved you," Emily continued, "more than anything. And in her way, she never left you. She's in Highgate, next to you. Finally. She touched the glass. And I'll make sure people know, she said, that you were real, that you were loved, that you mattered. The light shifted. For just a moment, Eleanor's image seemed clearer. The white dress, the dark hair, the bow. Then it faded again. Emily smiled. "Good night, Eleanor," she whispered. In August, the article was published. Emily bought 3 copies of the journal, gave one to Mrs. Castell, kept one for herself, sent one to Dr. Finch. She received letters from scholars, from researchers, asking questions, wanting to see the mirror. She declined, politely. This wasn't a curiosity. This was Eleanor's home. And some things deserved to remain private. But she was glad. Glad that people knew. Glad that Eleanor's story was told. Glad that Catherine's grief was understood, not as madness, but as love, taken to its extreme, but love nonetheless. September came. The light changed again. Autumn light, slanted, golden, different from spring. Emily stood at the mirror one evening. The house quiet, Mrs. Castell in the basement, the street outside empty. She looked at the stairs, counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and in the mirror, 13. Still there, fainter now, but still there. Eleanor, standing, waiting. Emily pressed both hands to the glass.
"I have to tell you something," she said. The mirror reflected her face, her hands, nothing else. "I'm leaving," she said. It was true. The museum had offered her a position, senior cataloger, better pay, but it required relocation to Oxford. She'd accepted. "I'll be gone by October," she said, her voice breaking. "But Mrs. Castell will still be here. She'll still remember. She'll still bring violets, tears on her cheeks. And other people will come," she continued, "other tenants, and maybe some of them will see you, will wonder, will ask questions." She wiped her eyes. "And Mrs. Castell will tell them," she said, "about Eleanor Hartwell, who died at 12, who was loved, who was remembered." She stood there, hands on the glass, until the light faded, until Eleanor's image disappeared, until it was just Emily and her reflection and the mirror. Her last night in the house, she couldn't sleep, lay in bed, listening for the footsteps. They came, one last time, slow, climbing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Emily closed her eyes. "Goodbye, Eleanor," she whispered. And in the darkness, she heard, or thought she heard, or wanted to hear, a whisper, so faint, like breath, like wind, like nothing, but it sounded like goodbye. Morning came, gray, soft rain. Emily packed her things. Not much. She'd arrived with 1 case. She'd leave with 2. Mrs. Castell waited in the hallway. "You'll write," she said. "I will. And visit. Yes, They embraced, the old woman small, fragile. "Thank you," Mrs. Castell whispered. "For what?" "For understanding," she said. "For remembering." They separated. Emily picked up her cases, walked to the door, paused, turned, looked at the mirror one last time. The morning light weak, gray. She couldn't see Eleanor, just the stairs, 12 of them, ordinary, real, but she knew when the light was right, when the angle was perfect, there would be 13, and Eleanor would be there, standing, waiting, always. "Goodbye," Emily said, to the mirror.
To Eleanor, to the house, to all of it. Then she opened the door and stepped out, into the rain, into the city, into her life. Behind her, the door closed. The house stood, silent. The mirror waited. And somewhere, between layers of glass, sealed in silver and time, a photograph slowly faded. A girl in white, standing on stairs, forever 12, forever loved, forever there. Years later, a young woman would move into number 17 Marchmont Street. She would see something in the mirror, a 13th step, a shape, and she would ask Mrs. Castell, now very old, nearly 90, and Mrs. Castell would tell her about Eleanor, about Catherine, about love and grief and remembering. And the young woman would understand, would bring violets, would whisper goodnight, would keep the story alive, as Emily had, as Mrs. Castell had, as someone always would, because some stories, some loves, some memories deserve to last forever.